Okay, we are live here on the Fun Bites Bake Along 2.0. This is the fifth week, and we are just a couple of days for the Halloween. And I thought we should do something that is in the theme of Halloween. And when I looked out, what are the things that will be really very interesting? Most of the stuffs were like we kind of knew such things already, like the spider cookies and finger cookies and few other things, mud and you have the symmetry kind of moves cups and all that. I thought we've known that before, and we could kind of do that. So when I was looking for some unique ideas, this sounded very interesting to me. The ghost donuts. Donuts by itself are a very interesting dessert, right? For kids. And for me, donuts by itself has to be like really very soft. It should have that right amount of sugar and salt in the dough itself in the first place. And then what are we going to do? Are we going to glaze it? Are we going to fill it? And then depending on whether it is a full donut, then obviously the dough can't be like too sweet. But if it is going to be a glazed donut, then you don't have any complementing flavor or sweetness to it. So I prefer the dough to be a little extra sweet. So and by itself, donuts when made at home has to be super soft, because we just can't have not a very soft bread in the form of donut. And it's because it is homemade, we have to put in that extra care to make it as great as it would be from any other super branded donut. So we are going to make also focus on, not we are just not going to focus on the ghost alone, right? We are also going to focus on the donut itself in the first place, and turning that dough into the ghost donut is just one part of it, the last part of it. And so we'll just start making the dough for the donut. Okay, so I have the ingredients ready with me. What I have is instant yeast. I could add the instant yeast directly into the flour and start kneading by adding lukewarm water or milk. The recipe card is just posted right on the Instagram page as well, and the Facebook page. You could refer to that to look into the measurements of the ingredients. The ingredients are right here with me. I also have a little bit of chocolate and cream to make ganache and show. That will be used for glazing the donuts. I have kept it there also because I want the yeast to get activated in the first place. I wanted to show that because if you are using active yeast or the fresh yeast, just in case, you have to activate them. So you have to add them into lukewarm water and allow the yeast to froth up. So that part I could skip today because I'm using the instant yeast. But I could also do that process of mixing the yeast with some sugar with the lukewarm water to activate the yeast. So that is what I'm going to do. But if you are having the instant yeast, you could add it directly onto the flour. Questions I would be going through at the end to check on and reply to your queries. To begin with, I'm starting the saucepan and adding the water. There's just little bit of water, but the point here is the water cannot be in room temperature for the yeast to get activated. For that reason, I'm just going to heat the water up, because by the time I'm heating it up, if I'd already had hot water or warm water, the temperature wouldn't be just right for me to mix it up with yeast, because when it gets added up into the yeast, it just needs to be lukewarm. So I'm just going to heat the water up, and I'm going to show you how I do the lukewarm test before I add yeast into the water. You don't want it to keep it like too hot as well, that will kill the yeast. Okay, now looks like it is heated up. Now I've added the water into the bowl. I'm just going to dip my pinky finger into the water. Now, if it is too hot, if I'm not able to bear the temperature of this water, then this is like really hot for the yeast also. So I should be able to dip, put my pinky finger or one of the fingers, a clean fingers obviously, into the water and count till 5. And the fifth count is when you, that is the maximum, tolerance level that you should have, and you should be able to bear that heat until you count to 5. That is one test that I do if we are not going to use any temperature test. Okay, so this is quite good. I was able to count till 5 and it is warm. Now that's the yeast. I'm going to add it in, and I'm also adding some sugar into the yeast and mix this up. You need that sugar to be mixed with yeast when we are adding that into the lukewarm water. Now this I'm just going to set it aside. I'm going to pick it up and show how this is frothed up, okay, in the first place. Now this I'm just going to set it aside and allow the yeast to react and get activated. And in the meantime, what I'm going to do, I just need some water in this. Little bit of water for double boiling. So in the meantime, I need the time for the yeast to get activated, right? So I'm going to use milk chocolate. It is going to be a glaze, right? So the ratio is a 1:1. 50 grams of milk chocolate to 50 grams of cream is what I have. So I'm having a little bit of, I could have done that in the microwave, but I can't shift the microwave here into this table. So I'm just heating this water up. You can see, so this is a double boil method. So that's just little bit of water, about a centimeter tall. I'm just going to place the glass bowl on this saucepan, and I'm making sure the bottom is not touching the water. Okay, and I'm just going to allow the heat. You could also heat the saucepan up first, allow the water to boil for some time, and then you know that the steam already is coming. That will immediately touch the bottom of this bowl and let the chocolate melt. Now that we have to wait until the water boils, and once it boils, you cannot allow it to, like, keep boiling when the double boiling is happening. I'm just increasing the temperature, so um, the water heats up fast, like quickly. And then once I see it is boiling, because that's a glass bowl, right, I could see through. So I'm reducing the temperature, and now I'm allowing the chocolate to melt. I could also add the cream at the same time, and let both melt together. I mean, the chocolate melt and then mix it up with the cream as well. So now you can see the chocolate is melting. So once I see the chocolate, I see quite a bit of steam coming on the side, so I'm reducing the flame a bit on the induction. Now the chocolate is melted enough. Now I'm adding the cream also into the chocolate. I'm going to mix this up as well. And once the both are combined well, I will set it aside. And if needed, I will microwave this again, or a bit of double boiling will also do fine when I just have to coat one side of the donuts. Now this is done. I'm just going to lift this up carefully, just to wipe off the base and set it aside. I'm just going to switch off. Now I just have to start heating the milk. Pour this water out and then just give me the saucepan. Here, pour it here. Okay, so the ganache is done, and but then the ganache was done just to allow me the time to give for the yeast to start activating itself with the lukewarm water, the sugar that is added, and I set it aside. You can see the process is happening. I mean, you can't see, but I can see the process is happening. I'm just not going to disturb that for a while, and then allow that to react a bit more. You have to give it time, like say 10 minutes or so. So the next thing that I will do, which is part of the donut recipe itself, is heating the milk and then adding butter, and then to mix it until the butter completely melts and mixes up with the milk. Okay, so now milk gets added, and I'm just going to wait until the milk starts to boil on the edges, and after which I want to switch off and then add the butter. And with that heat itself, I'm just going to allow the butter to completely melt, and this will be used in the dough itself, which we are going to do it on the uh, jar, the KitchenAid. But now this is a very soft dough, an enriched dough which has eggs and milk. Okay, now the milk started boiling. I'm just going to switch this off. Okay, I will be needing the induction stove only after. Just going to put it down. Only when I'm going to fry the donuts back again, I will be needing the induction. Now, onto this hot milk, what I need to do is add the butter. Okay, and butter is quite soft now. It's been in room temperature, and now I just need to mix this. And because the milk is quite hot, now the butter will get mixed up, and I'm just going to keep mixing until all the butter is mixed really well. Now, as I was saying, this is a very soft dough, and I'm going to use the KitchenAid bowl. If you're using a handheld beater and a separate bowl, then you could use a deeper bowl, not a wide one, a deeper bowl, and use the dough hook and your hand beater, and then use the beater itself to make this dough, because it's going to be very sticky to use your hands and knead. Okay, so now this I'm just going to keep it aside, and okay, now I'm going to move to the KitchenAid. I have the dough hook here. um, Let me add the flour first. Okay, and then the sugar. And so now the egg comes in place of egg. For egg substitute, what you can do, add a tablespoon of cream, dairy cream in place of egg, if you're going to make this donut in the eggless version. Okay, and then salt comes in on top of this. Okay, and then I'm also going to add uh, the milk and the butter mixture. And then you don't want it to be like really hot, because again here that really hot milk and butter will kill the yeast which we are going to add on top of this. So I'm just going to mix it up and try and allow a little more time for the milk and butter to cool down a bit. That is added, and now I'm just going to pick up the activated yeast and showed to you before adding. So that's how it looks. Okay, you can see how it's frothed up. Okay, and it's activated now. So you know that now is the time that you can add the yeast into the dough. Okay, so I'm just going to completely transfer the yeast into the dough and use the KitchenAid. I'm just going to bring it in the middle. Fit this and put the dough hook and then start beating. Now it is going to take me 10 minutes and more until you see the dough will start coming together. And then in between, I have to scrape it down and put the dough together again. And then the final stage will be when the dough will move itself from the sides of the bowl and then come together. It will be a very, very soft and a sticky dough, but that's how we are going to look at. Okay, so I'll start it on medium speed and then maybe I'll increase the speed as needed. So I'm just going to check the dough. I'm looking for a silicone spatula. Just going to scrape down. That's just a little bit of dough. Like I said, don't wanna make a lot and then make you people follow that recipe and do a lot of it. So I just want to do check and see. I'm just touching a little bit of flour in my fingers to do a window pane test. Okay. Like I said, it's a very, very soft dough. That's how it is going to be. So I'm just going to see if the kneading is enough. Window pane test is you keep stretching, and then if it comes without this crack or hole or break, then which means the gluten is formed and you're good to go. Now that this crack is forming, now I'll put it in, which means that I have to continue to beat or knead the dough for some more time, which is what I'm going to do, and wait for another 5 more minutes on medium high speed. So now it's been beating for a while now. It looks soft. Now again, I'm just going to touch my fingers with little bit of the flour and going to pick up some dough and do the window pane test again. Now, if it is sticky while doing that, then I'll just take the help of dusting some flour Okay, so now if this comes without tearing, and then you can also see it is quite almost opaque, right? It is a very thin sheet, and as I'm pulling also, there is no hole, right? And that's the time you know that you are ready to go, and your beating or kneading with your hands is quite done. But this I prefer to use the handheld beater, also is fine with a dough hook. Okay, so now I am going to remove the bowl from the KitchenAid, and now I wouldn't be needing the KitchenAid after this. Setting that one aside. I'm just going to, so the dough is kneaded now completely. I'm just going to release this off this bowl and transfer it into another glass bowl. And then this glass bowl, I just want to oil the glass bowl a bit. I have a little bit of the oil. Okay, I'm just going to oil it inside because we are going to allow it to proof, which means we are going to allow it to almost double in volume, and that could take about 30 minutes, 45 minutes, depending on the temperature you are in. What you need to look at is you need to wait for the dough to double in volume. So I'm just coating the inside with oil. Okay, and transfer this dough in. Like we are making like really very few number of donuts with this recipe, but that's fine. You could double the recipe if you are looking at making more, and this is the least that is safe enough to work on the donuts, and try it out if you're making the donuts for the first time. So this is good, and then on top of this, now I would need a damp towel, a wet towel, which I'm just going to get it done. Now this I need to cover it with a towel that I will put it in water and then squeeze it, remove of all the excess water, and then wrap this up and keep this in a warm place. Warm place, which means like any of our tropical houses are quite good, or sometime inside kitchen where the cooking is going on, and then we know that room is warm enough, and that place will be good enough for the proving to happen a bit faster, which is the ideal 30 to 45 minutes that we say happens in a warm place. And if that place is really cold, and if you're working in a AC environment, then it would take a little longer. So instead of the timing, what you have to look at is the doubling of the dough. So now this is the dough that I'm going to cover. Okay, and then I already have another dough that's been proving. We had backtracked the time, so we have exactly 45 minutes when the dough, the previous stage of this is done and it's been resting. So I'm going to put this aside. So for you to understand this, at this stage, once the dough is made, you put it in an oiled bowl and then wrap it up with a wet and squeezed out a damp cloth, and put this aside in a warm room, a warm place for about 30 to 45 minutes, or watch out whether the dough is doubling up in size. And once that is done, then we will be good to go to the next stage. Now I'm just going to get that bowl which I had made and kept it, and it's been proving. Okay, so you can see the how the dough was placed. That's exactly the same recipe that's been used on this one as well. And now you can see the dough is doubled up in size. Now this I will have to knock it down and start rolling it to giving it the shape. Now we are making donuts, right? So what I have is the sill pad onto which I'm just going to add some flour. Okay, and I'm just knocking it first, releasing that little bit air that would be formed because of the rising in the volume. It's doubled in volume, Never mind, the sticky dough is going to give you a really soft and yummy donut. So we just try and understand how we are going to work with this. Just a little bit of flour. This is quite soft. Now I'm just going to use a rolling pin. So after the stage, now that I'm going to cut it and then shape it, right? After this has to be allowed to prove again. Again, it needs to, for the second proving is also a part of yeasted baking. And now this again will be cut into shapes and allowed to go to rise in shape again. Okay, size, it will rise in size. Now what I have for the donut is 7.5 centimeters. I mean, it's like a really huge donut, but that is needed to make the ghost's face. So you want the hole for the eyes and the mouth to be intact even after doubling in size. When you're frying, you don't want the eyes size to be, shrinking and merging together. So this is a size that I am also going to make the regular shaped donuts, because I just don't want to make it look like this entire recipe is made for ghost donuts, but this is like a really yummy donut by all means itself. So first, let me cut out circles. Okay, let me work with these five first. Let me just touch a little bit of flour so I can just avoid the sticking of this extremely soft dough. Okay, so I'm just going to remove off the excess and place it aside. And I will be needing it again. I will re-roll it to make more donuts. Okay, so this I'm going to put it back into the bowl itself, and let me just make sure it's not overly sticky. Okay, so for the for the ghost ones, let me make 4 ghost ones. Okay, so now if it is sticky, I'm just going to gently make sure. I can re-roll it if I'm just not pretty happy with the shape. But for the ghost ones, it is okay if it is going to take an oval shape. Okay. Now I have the nozzles itself. Okay, so one is a bit bigger nozzle and other is a bit smaller nozzle. You can see the small one I'm going to use it for the eyes, and the big one I'm just going to use it for the mouth. And now I'm just going to cut out for the eyes and then for the mouth, as I'm doing, as like I put in the recipe card. I'm just dragging to make the opening a bit oval. Okay, so let me just do this. Let me stretch it up a bit even now. I could do that while I'm transferring as well. So cutting out the eyes, 2 eyes, and then with a bigger nozzle, cutting out the um, mouth. Okay, now just have a baking tray. I'm not going to bake, but then I have this to transfer the donuts and then allow that to be doubling up in size again. But I just want it to be not disturbed much. Okay, so from here you can see both these places. From here I'm just going to lift the ghost donut and then place it on the butter paper. Now while it is getting sticky, dust your hands with flour. Okay, so now again going to dust and pick the donut and just make sure I'm just narrowing down at the eyes part and then at the mouth part as well. So it's okay, the shape distorts a little bit because it will double up in size and the thin sheet will become thicker because it's going to increase in volume, right? So just make sure the face at the mouth part is quite narrow and then you could replicate the ghost's face in this. And now that I have already one, I'm just going to knead it back and very very gently, you don't have to knead it like really very hard. Again, it is not even kneading it, I'm just dabbing that down and going to use the rolling pin to roll that. Let me see if I will get a few more, maybe four more of that size. I can make it using the same bigger size. I'm just going to make one small hole to make it look like it is the regular glazed donut. Okay, so removing the excess out first. This you can put it back and then you can knead it as well. I'm just setting this aside and then in the center I just use the bigger size nozzle itself and cut it out. Okay, so now this again going to transfer it very gently, dusting flour onto the fingers each time because you can see this is quite a soft dough. Now one last time, but then the excess that you can just dab it. Okay, now I'm just going to set this aside. Now I would have gotten a couple more of the regular sized donuts as well. Now this per process of the donut should go into proving, second proving. That again is going to take, depending on the temperature you are in, is going to take another 30 minutes to 45 minutes. This I'm going to put it aside and we will have to be doing it after 30 to 40 minutes, right? But then I have another batch which we have backtracked. So at this time of the hour, we will have the second proving done, and the shaped donuts are already proved and ready. So I'm just going to put this aside, and then I'm going to get the induction stove and the oiled frying pan, and then we will start frying our donuts. Now, um, for you to follow, after shaping and cutting to the desired shape, right? Now we have four of the ghost ones, and then three of this, but then you could have gotten one more of the regular size, and this should go into a warm place to get doubled in size for about 30 to 40 minutes, after which is when you will be ready to fry the donuts, and it will be completely ready. Now, putting this aside, now what I need on top of this is, so that dough is going to get the second proving done, and that is going to take 30-40 minutes. So let's not um, keep us all waiting. So before I get the bag that's already done with the second proving, let me get the frying pan with the oil. You need, depending on the size of the frying pan, um, you need oil. So it's a flat bottomed frying pan, right? Because it just needs to be placed quite comfortably on the um, induction stove. So there is quite a bit of oil. So depending on the size of the frying pan and how deep or wide your frying pan is, you could add water. So what happens when you put in the donut in it, you don't want the donut to be frying on a not enough oil, and then the donut goes to the base of the frying pan. You don't want that donut to be touching the base, but then you want it to be frying and then swimming in the oil. So that much oil is what you need. I'm switching on, and then here I'm just trying to figure out. So the temperature of the oil, now let me get the proofed donuts. So as you can see here, these ones, the ones that are proved after 30-40 minutes of the previous stage that I've just sent, you can see they have doubled in volume. This is what we are looking at, and this is when you know it is ready to get fried. The oil is being fried under this, but I'm just trying to show you how it looks before you know that it has to be fried in the oil. Now, the oil's temperature, if you are quite comfortable with frying the food that you cook, then you know that too much of heat will also burn the donut, and then like too less of heat will not even cook the donut at all. So I have the thermometer here. I'm just going to get to 180. And then using induction, there is always this trouble that the temperature rises, and then to manage it to stay at that one temperature is quite a task. So let me just wait. So I'm just waiting for the temperature to reach 180 degree Celsius. So that you have to be sure that the oil really heats up to that right temperature before you're frying any yeasted dough. I'm just going to increase the temperature, allow the temperature to rise, and then I'm just going to bring it down. So I know that it's going to hold on approximately somewhere within the 180 degree Celsius range. See, the temperature quickly rises. It's on 94, 5, and 96, and then it is going to touch 100 in a while. And then we are just going to wait until now. If you do not have this temperature, I mean, if you have your own judgment, if you've been frying your food, um, you know that you can instantly figure out which is the right temperature for you to put the donut in and not allow it to be overburnt and it just becomes like really dark brown. You're just looking at a light brown being cooked on either side for 30 seconds is what happened to me. But then depending on the temperature that you're working, you could allow it to fry on each side even a little more than 30 seconds. For me, somewhere within the 30 seconds works quite good. I wish we had heated up the oil a bit so we could have avoided this wait time. But if the oil is not quite hot, then we can't be frying the donuts. So frying is also a critical step that we cannot miss, like how we just don't show baking, but then we say, bake it in the oven and then it gets baked. But that is quite fine. You just have to put it in the oven with the right setting. And to talk about cakes, like say when the toothpick inserted in the center of the oven and all that, steps are quite good for the cake. But then I thought you can't be saying that to the dish which has to be frying in the oil at the right temperature. Now, once it reaches 180, now it is almost 160. I mean, sometime it's just going to reach 180, and after which I'm just going to reduce the temperature and not allow it to quite reach like too far. Now it's 170. I just don't want to go till say maybe 200 or so, and that is not really good. But you could try, you could just put in the small, tiny balls that are there, that the final bits from the donuts, what you get, or the tiny little balls, right? That you can just add it in and see if they are getting over fried or like really too browned. And then, you just need to reduce the flame by a bit and then um, continue to fry later on when the temperature is come down. Now you can see that there is a 181, it goes high. I'm trying to reduce a bit. Just going high. So to control this, what I'm going to do, I'll see if it is going really high or just going to stagnate somewhere. So what I can do, switch it off for some time, allow the oil to cool down. So this is just ways that I figured out how to keep the temperature of this particular oil that I'm using in this particular stove to control. So what is really important is to not allow the temperature to like really shoot up and then have like really a piping hot oil and then it's going to brown your donut. That's very important. Now, after switching it off, the temperature is just staying there, 184, and it's just actually coming down. It's 183.5. So now I will switch it on and then have it at a low temperature. Now I know it is somewhere around 184. Okay, so now I'm just going to start. Now in the meantime, after a couple of minutes, I'll come back and then check with the thermometer again. So the first thing I'm going to do is use a tiny little bit that's been cut out to see if the frying happens seamlessly. So I'm just going to allow each side for some time until the golden color starts appearing. Because it feels like it is not over browning and the temperature is good, it's just starting to fry. And because I need 30 seconds on each side for it to turn golden brown. Okay, so after this, I'm just going to start frying the regular ones first, and then we'll go on to the ghost. Okay, so I'm just putting this aside. I also have some castor sugar in which I'm just going to dip the donuts. So I'm just going to fry one by one. So I'm just gently taking, then allowing one to fry. I'm just going to do one by one because you have better control on what happens to that one donut, because each donut is precious. Like you can't be doing like your regular house cooking, and unless you are really experienced, you can do that, like frying 2 3 donuts at a time, because you don't want that, one donut when you are picking, and then it just over browns the other one, which is just staying there in the oil and being fried. You don't want to do that. To increase temperature by a bit. So now I'm just going to flip this over and then wait for that one side to have that light golden shade. And then what I'm not going to do is I'm not trying to keep on flipping it like any other cooking, frying things when you are doing it for your house. Like it's okay for us to keep on flipping a dish, but here I'm just going to avoid flipping it quite often. I'm just going to allow each side to get fried until it is just done. Okay, so I think I'll stop. It's just golden brown color. Now what I will do, I'm just going to use the bowl of castor sugar. I'm just not going to leave it quite more. What I'm going to do is put this into this bowl of castor sugar and use a fork to just coat. So the sugar donuts, if you have to do, the process is something like this. From the oil, it just directly goes into the bowl of castor sugar, and then from here, it just needs to be transferred into a bowl, and that's how you have the sugar donuts. So some of them I'm just going to make it like this sugar donuts, and then some of them, like we have only a couple of them for each, I'm just going to use the milk ganache that we did to glaze it. So now I'm just going to quickly run the thermometer in to check if the temperature is like really hot, or is it like, so it's quickly rising. It's not too low. It's 175, 178. So there will be this 180 check. So I'm just going to drop the other one. I'm not flipping, I'm just moving this to one side. So if at all you're just seeing it through the one of the cameras, it will be quite visible to you. So this one, I'm just going to allow on the sides. I'm just checking if it is browned enough on the bottom. I will flip it over. So you have that right color is what you're going to look at. The right temperature of the oil is important, and then the right color on one side, and flipping it only once in between. And then once you know that each side has this golden brown color, then you know you have to transfer it onto the plate. I'm just checking the color. I know both the sides have this really really lovely golden brown shade. I'm just going to put this onto a plate of lined with tissue paper. So what happens is just going to absorb the excess oil. So I'm just going to leave this here handy. One more. So this I'm just going to again sugar coat it. Turning it. So you don't want it frying like really very quickly and then trying to burn it up, and then you will not have a very soft donut. Okay, I'm just going to put the rest onto the tissue. Yes, I'm just checking the sides to see how much has it browned on the underside before I decide I have to flip it over. So I'm not going to count till 30 seconds. I'm just going to wait until the bottom I feel has changed color, and then I know I have to immediately remove it out of the oil, transferring it into the bowl of, a plate which lined with a tissue. Now then, our hero of today, the ghost donuts, go into the oil to get fried. Okay. Okay, now turning it because I can see the back side has browned quite good. You can see that golden brown is what we are looking at, and it was just in a few seconds, right? So you could wait until you can check the color. Now you can see it's fried well. Now I'm just going to put this again in the plate which is having the tissue, so the excess oil gets drained. Let me just reduce the temperature. We have three more to go before we are done with all. And then if I don't fry it now, if I set it aside and then start checking on your queries, then these dough will be wasted. So these can't wait. So let me just finish frying up. Just putting that aside. Three more to go. removing these. Last couple of them. And the last one, I'm just going to put it onto the castor sugar bowl. So you can see how the, the ones from the oil directly goes onto the bowl of castor sugar, becomes the, sugar donuts. They're just coated with sugar. I don't have, like too much of chocolate or glaze or anything. I like it that way, not too much of filling or anything. So this also goes into the tissue paper. So this last I and this what I'm going to do. Okay, so this I'm just going to drop it into this bowl of castor sugar. Okay, I'm just going to coat that whole thing with castor sugar and turn it over, and then make sure with that little oil it should get coated quite well. And once after that, then you just remove this gently from this, before which I just want to gently transfer this really hot oil aside. Now I'm just going to switch this off. It is quite hot now as well. I'm just going to put this away. Done frying now. And onto this one, we have this sugar coated regular shaped donut, and then we have the ghost also, that is sugar coated. Okay, that's the castor sugar. And now what we have, this, let me just give it away. Sorry. So these two is what we have. Now looking at the ganache. So the milk ganache has to be microwaved a bit. Just send this in to get microwaved so it just gets soft, and then we can just glaze up a bit. Okay, so let me keep the ghost guys together. So it is warm now, but then I know they are as delicate as it is like the dough that you saw, but then they're quite soft. I'm just going to allow it to uh, cool down a bit, and then I'm just going to spread it out and then show. So this is the guy we've been looking forward to having today. You can make all of them as ghost as well. That you know that we have Halloween coming up. You can regular ones. I thought maybe not just today. I just want you guys to, keep doing this whenever, say, maybe you have an order for donuts, or then you have a dessert table where you can make donuts as part of the rest of the desserts that you're doing and all that. I just wanted one nice donut recipe that can be a keepsake for you guys to, keep working. And that is why I also wanted to show the regular glazed donuts. I'm just going to mix up. So I'm going to glaze one of the regular one and one of the ghost. Let me take a regular one. Okay, I'm just going to use one side and then dip gently and then just pull it out and drip off the excess a bit. Okay, and then on the sides I'm just trying to see if there's not too much dripping, and then they are good to go. I'm just going to place it on the plate. I'm just picking one pretty guy that I can pick up. Okay, glazing exactly like the regular one, and then picking it up gently and allowing the ganache to drip, and then placing it on the plate. Okay, so these one more plate. No, I'm just removing off the tissue paper so you can get to see the quite well. I will continue and glaze the rest of it or just use it like however the choice of whoever wants to eat it. Let me just transfer these into bowls, and they look a little oily there. You don't want to leave it where there's quite a bit of oil. So I'm going to pick up one and then show you how soft they have turned out. So which one should I pick? So this needs a little more time to set. The chocolate and the ganache has to set well. Now let me pick up one of this. Okay, and then you can see how soft it is. Okay, and pulling it away you can see how very delicate and soft, the inside of this donut is. And that's something that I thought, it has to be in your dessert list. Donuts, if ever you have to make donuts again, I suggest you use this recipe. You can see very soft they are. But then also I just wanted to keep the this particular recipe really very soft and very difficult to handle. In that case, what really happens is, now if you're using any other regular donut recipe that you've been using, if you're going to cut out on the nose and the mouth, this very narrow part, which is the joining part of the both the eyes, and this part kind of gets very brittle. If you know that your regular donut recipe has worked really well for you, which I tried, but then this part is getting brittle and it is not very good to eat. For that reason, I thought I have to find a recipe that really works out. Even if it is very tricky and difficult to handle, I thought we needed something that will work even for this very, narrow uh, parts of the donut to be very soft. So now you know that you can have a dough and then have it in any shape, not just for ghost. You can have it in any shape like the regular ones or these ghost, and then maybe you can make cut out in any shapes and make the donuts in the way you want, which is also going to be really very soft and has the right burst of flavor. And then you know how to also do it with sugar coat, and then also you know how to glaze it. Well, obviously you can do with white chocolate or the dark chocolate as well, and you know how to make it a little more colorful with the sprinkles and all that, or maybe choice of nuts and all that on the top. Okay, so with this we have come to the end of the 5th week of Fun Ways Bake Along 2.0. And okay, let me now check through the comments to see if there are any doubts that I have to answer. Right? This is ganache. Pinky Kumari on Facebook is asking if it is ganache or metal chocolate. This milk chocolate, which I also made as part of this live itself. How to store in room temperature is like really good. Okay, and you have to make it the day you have to consume it. Can I eat the next day after fried donuts? I mean, you don't make it for the next day. You make it to eat it now or serve it now. But then if you have leftover, obviously you can keep it and then eat it the next day. I will try the donuts in regular gas. Is temperature still important? Regular gas, and if you have that, if you know you've been frying food for quite some time and you know, you can just put the smaller balls of the donuts and then see if they're not over browning, and if you feel that the heat is not too much, then you can go ahead and then fry it in your usual way. But then if you're a first timer in frying, then temperature, checking the temperature becomes important. Recipe we use to bake a bread. I haven't tried using this recipe to bake a bread, so I may not be able to comment on that much. This, I'm just pretty sure this works great for donuts. I'm just scrolling through to check if there are any comments. I mean, you can keep it refrigerated. The proving is going to take some time. But then if you have the time during the day, I would suggest to follow this exact process and not, improvise on things unless we thoroughly know what we are going to do with yeast, because there is a lot of science involved in it. And then it is better to just stick to the recipe if you are doing it for the first time. Dough for the next day. I mean, you can cling wrap and leave it in the fridge and then allow slow proving to happen. And then you could work on it the next day. But I haven't tried it personally, so I wouldn't be able to tell you what exactly is going to happen and how you have to deal with the dough that you will be, refrigerating overnight. But this process has worked for me, which I'll be able to, clarify in whatever process that I have done. That I'll be able to let you know really well. But that I've not tried, but you could try it out and see. But I know that slow proving works when the dough gets refrigerated. You could work on it the next day and it still works fine. The recording of this video, yes, it will be shared on the page, on the IGTV, on the Instagram, it's there. And then the Facebook page, the live just stays there, that you can just go and watch it anytime. You can just scroll through. You can also watch the rest of the other live videos, which were, which I was doing every past Fridays. 4 Fridays are done, and this you're on the fifth Friday. This video save or not in your page, Pinky Kumari. It will be there in my page, like I just said. Any other questions? Okay, I think we have come to the end of the session. So, to talk about Fun Bites Bake Along, it is a weekly baking marathon which we have been doing, and we are going to, send a token of love to people who have been baking along with me. So, it will be 8 recipes together in a row if you have baked and posted on the Fun Bites Bake Along Facebook group. And we have taken a note of all of you who have baked the previous recipes and shared your pictures, and maybe you're baking with your grandchildren or your daughters and all that. That story, like, really keeps us, in light. And we want to give you more such recipes that you could go on and then try it with your kids. And then you have a couple more days to try this ghost donuts for Halloween and get your kids engaged in the process and then start doing it. When you make these recipes, share it on the Fun Bites Bake Along Facebook group. If you're not added into the group, just send in the add request, and you will be added into the group. On Instagram, you're free to make and then share it on the stories or your post and then tag Fun Bites, and then also hashtag Fun Bites Bake Along. And then we are also noting that down. So anywhere if you're posting, but then obviously the Facebook is quite easier for us. Instagram, we've done in the past, like we have done 2 series in the past. We have taken a track of all those who have completed 8 weeks, and then we have sent across the physical fridge magnet. So you will be termed as a consistent baker, and a fridge magnet will be shipped across to your own address, and then which you can hold it in your hand and then put it onto your fridge, and then be very proud about having baked 8 weeks together, and all the tried and tested recipes which comes to you on Friday evening. So we look forward to, maybe not the next week, I think we have Diwali. I mean, there is a festival Diwali where I've not been baking for Diwali, but then there's just this Halloween hangama going on around here at Fun Bites. But then out there, there are quite a lot of Diwali festive recipes going on around. I am not a great fan of fusion baking in flavors. Not that's not the reason to skip the next Friday, but we are skipping the Friday because we have Diwali coming on the Thursday, and then maybe we'll not have enough time to prepare to be live on that Friday. So skipping on next Friday, which is the 5th of November, I'll meet you on the other next Friday with another amazing recipe, and that will be the 6th recipe that will be in the series Fun Bites Bake Along 2.0. Signing off. See you all after a couple of weeks. Bye.